I'm not going to lie, I've never really been the biggest fan of Wolverine. In fact, I've often found myself being quite annoyed with Fox's studio's persistence of making him the main character of nearly every bloody X-Men film that they've produced. However, despite the fact that I've never really cared that much for the movie version of the knife-clawed mutant, partly due to the fact that I'm a bitter Cyclops fan, after watching Logan I've come to appreciate Hugh Jackman's take on the character a lot more than I had previously. Simply put, Logan is a fantastic send-off to this incarnation of Wolverine, and is one of the best X-Men movies in its cinematic universe. Logan takes place in the year 2029. Mutants who were once seen as the next evolution of the human species have become something of a rarity. In fact, a radio report that plays in the film suggests that no new mutants have been born since 2004. Why this is the case, I'm not entirely sure. I'm also not really sure where the film fits into the convoluted X-Men continuity. It could be that Logan takes place in the original timeline, or it could be that events occur after Days of Future Past, though truth be told I don't really care. And I'm glad the writers and producers didn't focus too much on what happened in previous X-Men films, as it allowed them the creative freedom to create a great story without getting too bogged down with the history of the franchise. There are however still a few nice nods and Easter eggs that relate to the X-Men universe, but I fully believe that Logan works even as a standalone film. So those who haven't kept up with the previous 8 entries need not worry about not being able to understand what is going on. Logan is a huge tonal shift from previous X-Men movies and even the past Wolverine films. There aren't any heroes in costumes to be seen, the film doesn't have a final battle where the fate of the world is at stake, and the 2 main villains don't even have any superpowers. As much as comic nerds have been spoilt for choice when it comes to superhero movies over the last decade or so, there's no denying they've been getting a little bit stale of late, and Logan provides a much needed wake up call for the genre. If you're worried this film won't live up to its R rating, don't be. Within the opening 5 minutes, Wolverine has already said fuck countless times and ripped a group of guys to pieces in a completely brutal and violent manner. The film keeps up this level of violence throughout all of its action sequences, but it never feels gratuitous or unwarranted. Instead, it only adds to the excitement and thrill of each battle. In the past, I've never really been worried for the safety of Wolverine when a fight between him and another character has taken place, due to his unique healing factor and combat skills. However, when watching Logan, I always felt that the wolf was just one mistimed step away from being killed. For the first time, Logan feels vulnerable. He's never quite up to speed when he's fighting, and relies more on beastly rage than ever before to see him through each encounter. It makes each battle feel more gritty and intense, which results in it being more engaging to watch. In terms of its narrative, Logan isn't going to win any awards for containing the most original story, but it does manage to execute it remarkably well. Without going too much into spoiler territory, the tale of Logan begins with Wolverine, who is a bit of a haggard drunken mess, working as a limo driver, in an attempt to save up enough money to buy a boat, so he and Professor X can sail the seas without having to worry about anyone coming after them. Ultimately, Logan attracts some unwanted attention after his violent outburst at the beginning of the film, which eventually culminates in him going on a road trip with a mutant girl named Laura, with the intention of reaching a place known as Eden, which is supposedly a safe haven for the few remaining mutants. They are forced to make various stops along the way, bumping into a variety of characters, both good and bad. Despite being a pretty dark movie, a lot of the characters in Logan are really likeable. Laura is far from a damsel in distress and is in fact a complete badass, beheading Reavers, the cybernetically enhanced soldiers tasked with tracking her down, with ease. Stephen Merchant's Caliban seems like a genuinely nice and thoughtful guy, and is someone who audiences will have no problem rooting for, and I personally love the film's take on Professor X, which sees him suffering from dementia and suffering violent seizures, which cause his powers to go haywire to the point where he can end up killing people. It might seem like a weird concept putting these characters in such a bleak, daunting world, but it absolutely pays off. Just because a film is dark doesn't mean it lacks a sense of humour. In fact, I think I laughed more in this movie than I did in nearly every other Marvel movie that I've watched. Whether it be due to witnessing an argument between Professor X and Wolverine full of swear words, or seeing Wolverine completely lose it when his car breaks down, the film has some great comedy moments that don't feel cringeworthy or forced. My only main criticism of the film is that at 2 hours and 20 minutes it does feel a bit too long, especially during the middle sequence. However, although it feels a bit drawn out at times, I was never bored, and each included set piece results in a major payoff. In summary, Logan is a brilliant last hurrah for Hugh Jackman's take on the iconic character. By not focusing too much on the existing X-Men universe, Fox have created a movie free from the shackles of the past, which manages to be one of the most unique and interesting films centered around a superhero character to date.